No problem. Hello, Chris. I don't.
This is a wonderful intro.
Have to say, well done. Ted, you
I
muted.
think you might be on mute.
Sorry, I like double click. Yeah. Hello and welcome everyone to a new episode of panel discussions at MC2 Finance. Today we're discussing news analytics and how traders utilize news analytics and trends to make their decisions. And today we have wonderful speakers. So let's start with Alex, product lead with Okada AI. Alex, would you kindly explain us a little bit more what you do at Okada, what Okada does, what does it offer to its user base?
Sure. Thanks all for having me here. So I'm part of the Okada AI team, and I'm leading product development. So Okada is essentially a tool that helps to filter out the noise, in the off-chain and on-chain data, and kind of bring the alpha, to the traders. And it's primarily we're building this all, between the on-chain analytics, financial, kind of wallet analytics, as well as the social side of things, where the off-chain analytics, Twitter, Telegram, and a lot of other social channels that bring a lot of the information. But again, if you're a human being, you know how difficult it is to filter out the noise and to be able to make decisions based on that. So Okada is, basically kind of, answers the question, how do I pick the right token? So that's the mission we are on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the intro. Also, we'd like to introduce, so the chart artist, can we refer to you as like
Rudo. You can refer
or...
to me as Rudo. That's just my Twitter handle.
Okay, totally. Nice. So, Rudo, would you kindly elaborate on your introduction? Because we initially introduced you as architect turned full-time trader. Is that right? And would you kindly provide extra on that?
Yes, I'll do that for you. Yes, I started off as a mechanic, turned then an architect, then turned a trader. Sold my soul for the devil and went for the money. The reason being is I think trading is a unique opportunity because after you're behind the screen, once you're in the trade, it is a completely fair environment, irrespective of your background, where you're from, or how much money you have. So, and I think that is the nice thing from trading. So that's basically what got me into trading. I've got a YouTube channel. Some of you guys are watching me on my YouTube channel, and Twitter, social media, and all these things kind of just happened by accident. Just didn't really set out to pursue these things in any which way. But then the crypto bug bit me, and now I'm doing this full time now for about 5-6 years. It took me about 3 years to get to a point where I could go to my boss and say, take your job and shove it. So there is certain advantages to trying to master the art of trading. I know that it's much easier said than done. And I myself also go through very horrible days. It feels like, why am I still doing this? But in the end of the day, when things are, when the dust settles, it's the most rewarding place to ever be.
Thank you very much. And also, let me reintroduce Chris to you, the co-founder of MC2 Finance. Let's ask Chris, what is MC2 Finance is all about?
Hey guys, excited to be here again and having another of our live panels. The audience is growing and growing every time. MCScore Finance helps you with analyzing your wallet. We basically built an analytics engine which can calculate your 0 to 0 ROI, max drawdown, and average buying prices correctly, cross-chain, cross-protocol. Helps you drastically understand what it means to like trade in DeFi and where your returns really coming from. Due to this technology, we can then help you finding out what's your highest risk token, what's your biggest opportunity, as well as one of the things that I'm very excited about, which we hope will come still this year, is that we can show you these are 4 or 5 other traders who trade exactly the same tokens as you, but make 10, 20% more returns. And you can look into it, what kind of protocols they're using to generate these returns. Is it liquid staking, lending, liquidity provisioning? I think this is a very exciting space. Web3 and blockchain has all data public compared to traditional finance, but this also makes the big pain of there's just too much data everywhere, and you need to have a lot of them to get through it and what really matters. And I think that's why we are here today.
Awesome. Before we jump straight to the topic, I'd also like to remind everyone that Chris, alongside Marine, went to DEF CON last week. So maybe a couple of words how DEF CON, go for you, like what new experiences you had, like what impressions you had there.
Oh, I think that's a great start. We had a running joke through the week that everybody was 40% happier on that week than the week before, which is like in relation to the Bitcoin price growth. But you saw a lot of smiles. There were about 900 side events. I think we shared one of our calendars on social media where you could not even read a single character because it was so full of lines of events in parallel. It was a crazy week. But again, all the important people were there, which was very interesting to discuss, to see where the market is going, where it is developing. So it's an extremely exciting time to be in blockchain, to be in crypto. And there's still so much coming out. Like we're still early, and like it was an exciting week. It was great to meet everyone. If I would sum it up, some of the trends, like as always, no financial advice. It seems that Ethereum is falling behind currently. It's not holding up to catching up to Bitcoin anymore, and it probably seems that this trend is continuing. We see that a lot of, due to also that the higher quality of the L2 chains, a lot of the action is moving there, as well as to Solana, which again is very strong and really strong moving forward, including its ecosystem. We saw that meme coins still drive the field, which is typically also very normal as a hype up to a bull run, that you see also a lot of new meme coins and narratives coming out into the space, and that the dominant narrative of this bull run is not yet there. We know it's not the click apps. This just shown that there's an interest and that UX is a huge issue in the space that still has to be tackled. And there are several opportunities. What could it be? One key narrative is institutional capital will drive the growth. We have to see where it will come from. And one thing that also everybody agrees on is that usability is one of the biggest pain points, and we are not yet ready for mass market. So whatever this bull run brings, it's still before the mass market.
Awesome. Thank you. I would also like to remind to our audience that if you're watching the live stream, then we can get all the comments and all the questions that you send our way, wherever you're watching it on YouTube, on X, on LinkedIn. So feel free to write your questions, and we'll try to pick them up if they're relevant and not yet answered. And also, we've collected questions towards this topic from our user base via our Zilli sprint earlier this week. So because we understand that these events are only running for like 45 minutes and not everyone is capable to be present live. So if people have some specific questions towards our speakers, then of course they can drop questions in advance, and our class platform manager would provide them right for us here on stage. So with that being explained, let's jump straight into the topic. And I'd like to address Rudo the first question. It is what is the real-time news analytics? What does it give traders, and why traders rely on to this?
Well, for me, from a trader point of view, I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate to an extent. We always say, buy the rumor, sell the event. And in order to get light of a rumor, you sometimes need news outlets to kind of point to potentials. So I would say that is the big thing for me. And then, why, in addition to this, getting early entries, buying something before there's demand for it so that you can sell it later when the demand arrives. And then also to just kind of navigate low liquidity, environments as well. So examples, coins get hacked. There's something bad about a coin or protocol. You know that there's going to be little less market participation. So don't leverage too hard, or don't try and overtrade that specific thing. So for me, those are important things that news and real time news analytics kind of points to, because it kind of tells you where the masses are. And if you time it right and you get it right, you get in before they're there so that you can ride the wave.
Thank you very much. Also, I'd like to address the continuation question to Alex. So how can real-time news analytics provide an edge in the market, like an extra, that push extra information that keeps you, ahead of your competitors in the market?
Yeah, 100%. So with real-time analytics, I think I wouldn't say it's necessarily about the extra information, right? I think the blockchain and the kind of the world of the blockchain and the news sources around it is kind of surrounded with vast amounts of data. A lot of data generated by bots, both on chain, off chain. Like you have a lot of trading happening with the bots. There's obviously a lot of forensics that needs to happen on chain. There is a lot of noise that's happening in social media. You always get these raids, which is more or less organic. You have a lot of the influencers, working to promote the tokens and to elevate the brand and elevate the perspective on the token. But at the same time, the key is that you have a lot of retail volume. I think that's one of the things that's changing a lot. I don't know if you guys have seen this. I think I might have seen this on your Twitter today, or maybe someone else's. But Phantom has it's kind of exceeded the downloads of Google Chrome. So it has more downloads than Google Chrome, right? And I think the user experience, kind of making sure that you can enable the retail to interact with the blockchain in an easy way. That is the kind of the dominant, or this is the kind of one of the most vital things in terms of adoption and in terms of the kind of bringing the volume. And when you have a lot of organic volume, when you have a lot of the bots on high speed, low cost blockchain, as a regular trader, you don't really have an edge, right? You don't really have a capability to process so much data and to make a rational decision. So the key thing is to, for a human being, it's key to aggregate these data and deliver out of hundreds of messages, thousands of messages, and signals, give a single provide a single key signal that could be summarized easily. For example, there's a lot of volume coming in, into this token or into this ecosystem. So the challenge is, the challenge is primarily, how do you process all of that? How do you deliver this? How do you, assess what's accurate, what's the, and what's not? But if you only have to process a single signal rather than thousands coming in from different directions and generated by bots, you will definitely have an edge, and you will be able to make the decisions quicker.
Thank you very much. I must beg your pardon to explain that currently I'll be without camera because it seems lags, fading a bit away when I turn it off. And I also would like to notice that I'm seeing lots of shout out to all of our speakers today. So it's really, really nice, to Okada, to Rudo, and also to Expert Finance. It is very pleasant. So yeah, drop your comments, drop your questions, and we'll be moving ahead. So I'd also like to address Rudo about the potential challenges or pitfalls in using news analytics for trading and decisions.
Okay, thanks. So what I would say, the biggest pitfall is, we always wanted to try and be the contrarian. You always want to be the opposite of the masses. So when it comes to news, it's a tough one, because I would almost say, when you use news, you would rather want to try and use it as a lubricant when you're already in a successful trend, or where you bought into a successful narrative. But the problem with that is, with news, eventually, it kind of oversells, overmarkets something. So if you don't have a decent enough strategy, it brings me back to the trader side of things. If you don't have a decent enough strategy to take profit as the success is coming your way, news can almost kind of give you a false sense of safety. At some stages, we know bull market tops, nobody's bearish at that stage. So why the hell are they turning? Why the hell does the market turn around? So I think that is the biggest pitfall for me when we look at these kind of things, is to not lose sight of what price is doing, irrespective to what news is telling you that's going to potentially still happen.
Thank you. Also, we have a question from one of our users, with alias Mayo, who asks, how do you deal with the risk of misinformation or fake news when using news analytics in trading? Who'd like to take this one?
I'd like to add to what Rudo just said,
Okay.
about
Sure.
about kind of being the contrarian. There was an interesting case with, I think there was, I don't remember the entire story or the narrative, but that happened a few years ago, I think during COVID, when the Bitcoin was still, a lot cheaper. But there was a rumor about the Chinese, legislation that would be prohibiting Bitcoin and Bitcoin farming or mining, sorry. And a lot of a lot of people started panic selling. And, you obviously want to, it turned out to be false, right? It turned out to be false. Nobody's, like China is still allows, mining, and there's a lot of mining happening in China. But the kind of amplification of bias, especially with automated tools, that's obviously kind of a massive challenge. You want to kind of ride the waves on one hand, right? But on the other hand, you need to be able to distinguish what's the legitimate source of the information and what is generated or kind of span out as a narrative to drive the price in a certain direction or kind of manipulate the market. And that was just one of the examples. And in Bitcoin has a lot higher, it's a lot more difficult to move the Bitcoin price than something like a meme coin. But even with the meme coins, you need to be able to distinguish that. There's also a lot of ways to do it. I think social media analytics is kind of assigning the reputation scores to certain outlets. That's one of the ways. But even that could be difficult, especially when the narrative is sort of echoes between different news sources. You sort of get a get a signal in one place, but then it kind of echoes throughout the whole ecosystem until the mainstream media or relatively mainstream media pick it up. So there's always difficult to distinguish in that, but I think having some kind of reputation assigned, kind of being able to trace back where the message comes from, that is one of the most important things. You cannot fully automate that, but that's one of the key things that you can do to minimize what is the whether the narrative or the message is true or not.
Right. Thank you. Also, user with the alias Simhaya asks, what types of news sources are considered most impactful for generating trading signals, and how do you determine their credibility? I wonder if Chris has some opinion on that.
I think there is also a big difference if the news comes out of the macro, which significantly impacts the market itself. It's not that Bitcoin is the dominant asset. It's rather that dollars and countries are still the dominant asset. Let's see how many years that still will be the case. And therefore, what happens in macro is extremely important for Bitcoin, and therefore for all the tokens depending on Bitcoin as well. Here you have the significant traditional outlets where you nowadays please also verify which of these outlets actually tell verified news, because the times are also changing. And then as well, if you see the news first, especially in the socials, like if it's on Telegram in a group, verify the news source itself. Like if somebody says, hey, Cointelegraph said, check if the actual Cointelegraph channel said it. Often this starts to spread very fast. And it's very easy to, especially if you have then there are a lot of signal channels, which we'd say they are free signals. Remember, when something is fully for free, then you are the product. So that means if you follow a lot of free signal channels and all of these free signal channels share the same news, it could very well be that it's made so they can pump the price. So here's a lot of careful consideration. Read the actual news websites. Think about what's free for news sources you trust. Always not one, at least 3 sources that you deem that you trust, and then verify if something very important for the ecosystem happens, if one of them at least is sharing that as well, is confirming that as well. Otherwise, be very careful on what you trade on, because nowadays with the social medias, even with elections trying to be influenced by bot farms, it's a challenging environment to verify the news first.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Chris, I think you basically hit the hammer on the head there. Just to throw my little piece in there, go to the source. Everything is so transparent to an extent today. Simple. When you hear something, go to the source and check and see if it's there, because they will probably always try and get the scoop out if it's from them, first. So you're seldom going to hear something, somewhere else. Simple as that. Yeah,
and one of the other things I wanted to add is it's also a little bit tricky, especially with the kind of free signals groups and with some of the other sources. At some point, I think even the most illegitimate source of data may hit a critical mass in a way that it becomes the legitimate source. What I mean is, if enough people believe that, I don't know, Alex coin is going to pump, right? It will pump. So I think that's one of the things that we see, especially right now with a lot of emphasis on, on X, on the AI. It's a lot easier to amplify the message and deliver it as if it's organic message. You don't always, like, we see this quite a lot more now. It used to happen, even during the previous bull runs, there were a lot of bots. Now the bots are commodified. So especially if you're looking for retail sentiment, you're trying to figure out what's happening there. There is a lot of the kind of, as I say, like illegitimate sources, if you will, but they're trying to spin a sort of narrative and to kind of hit the critical mass in order to kind of bring legitimate sources to quote it, to repost it, and to essentially make it true.
Thank you very much. Also, I'd like to remind guys that if you enjoy watching the stream, then hit the like button. And if you find it valuable, then also follow us and check out what we have. Check out product by Anti-Squared Finance. Check out Okada, and also see what Rudo has on his channels. So definitely we'll provide much more valuable content for you soon. And let's get going. So we have also an awesome question that is related to the role of AI. It came from Mustang 03131. And he or she asks, how can real-time analytics effectively transform breaking news into actionable trading signals? And what role does AI play in ensuring the accuracy? First of all, can you tell us, is there such a thing, or is it just, picking up, so like the use of AI to somehow break down, these news to further, use that to determine the trading signals, and what's the process?
Sorry, was that a question for me or for Rudo?
Yeah, I expect that you would be the one most right to take it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just want to make sure. So, with AI, it's kind of, it became a tool of choice for kind of both sides. For both people who are, as I mentioned before, right? So for people who are spinning the narrative, for people who are generating the news, generating the information, creating content. At the same time, it's also a kind of an indispensable tool for those who are analyzing the news and the sentiment, online discussions, and whatnot. In terms of the role, it's the main reason, like, and I kind of want to piggyback on what Rudo said just a few minutes ago. Like, you need to trace the information back to the source, and as long as you have the technology and enough sort of integrations, enough sources of data to trace it back to the source. And I think in crypto, it's relatively possible because of how limited, the main channels are. You can still trace it. It's just mostly about kind of analyzing what exactly is the key message. Do we see this message repeat, a minute ago, like an hour ago, a few days ago, a week ago? And if that is possible, it's a little easier to trace it back. One of the, what I wanted to also mention is there is, it's not just relevant to crypto, but it's in general relevant to the AI. And, for those of you who are in cybersecurity, you probably have been familiar with the MLSecOps. It's basically, how do you protect against sort of attacks on the machine learning models using some of the processes to secure your supply chain, secure against the prompt ejections, secure against just in general kind of DevOps sort of security. And one of the challenging things that we see with Okada and with just in general in the field is kind of distinguishing if you just look at the data as is, anything could be a signal, right? But a lot of times it's not. A lot of times it's just noise that's kind of created to generate a certain amount of engagement, or a certain amount of kind of signal triggers on the other side. So you see a lot of sources that are created, or content creators that are sort of not real, that are created specifically to trigger the analytics engines, right? And to kind of overwhelm them with the amount of information, with the volume of the signals, so that the signal kind of becomes a more of a legitimate on the dashboards, in the AI models. So again, I think most of the times it's just you need to be able to trace it back to where the signal came from. And when I say signal, it could be news source. It could be like a headline or some sort of narrative, about the AI or anything else that's popular. And you need to be able to establish the credibility of the original source. But as I mentioned, it could be tricky. So you need to balance between credibility and also the volume, because you do see a lot of the, even a lot of the tokens and a lot of the chains that are not really that have no fundamentals gain a lot of traction, and purely because of the manipulation and kind of the sentiment. So kind of that could be another thing. Like if you establish that the retail are manipulated by by those signals, you can essentially kind of leverage that, and you can capture the value out of kind of understanding that this is somebody else has done the work for you, and you can just sort of, as I mentioned, capture the value and trade the token in a particular way. So that's just kind of briefly what I think about this.
What I do, if I can add real quick to what you said there, Alex, is simple. And this is now more opposed to Mustang in a sense, as you also need to understand the way at which you're trying to obtain these news events. Your browser is designed to give you what you want in the popular sense. So we tend to say, but if you want to look for bad news about Bitcoin and crypto today, it doesn't take it much long to go and hunt for everything that kind of supports it, because it wants to please you. So in the pitfall about any of these things is, everything is engineered to keep the user connected, and therefore, it can almost give you false positives in that sense. Even if it's positive news and everything is positive, might just, dilute the value of what it is you're trying to do. So just always have a balanced approach to that. Purely because of the way that, our modern browser engines, search engine, everything around that is designed to make you happy.
Yeah. Otherwise, how they're going to earn their money, right? On the ads.
Correct.
So, I think we get to the very good point to perhaps go a little bit into a discussion of practice. So, Rudo, I'd like to ask you, if I may, can you just build some very, very simple and let's say imaginary example, maybe something from what you recently done. So how would you take certain news and maybe transform them into signals that influence your decision in trading?
Okay, so what I would typically do, and I don't know if you can quickly, maybe if I'll do this, I can share my screen if it's possible.
Let's
if you don't
see. Let's see.
Just add the screen share. There's my screen. Okay,
Awesome.
so a good practical approach where I utilize news really efficiently is for a lot of cases, you need to look at something like XRP. The reason being is there's an insane following. So you can easily pick that up. There's a huge following. There's the XRP. They branded themselves the XRP army and. And then layered on that, there was all the Fed nonsense around them. The SEC nonsense around them, being the lawsuit and. So now you've got this, this whirlpool of emotions, people hodling for dear life, meaning it's going sideways. And then these relief pumps where people buy in on there's hope. Finally, XRP is going to be the savior of what it's intended to do. And typically how I would go about this is, in previous times, I remember this one, November, where Sunday evening, me and 5 other trading buddies were sitting around the table. We just had lunch and the news were coming out, and I can't even remember the headline, but basically it meant XRP was going to pick up and blow through the roof because all the pressure and all the negativity possibly would be to come to an end. Something about the SEC maybe dropping the case or something like that. And that was basically the catalyst for us to buy in early on the basis that if that comes into tuition, the market's going to pump. And everybody else around that point had that same idea. And this is typically how this coin performs. And you can see it from a technical point of view. There's a little bit of a relief on something that was, hope gets, and then it gets taken away because news does not necessarily assign value to anything. Okay. Yeah, you had the bull market, amazing, but this is how it's always been. So SEC, every time something comes to light and it seems like XRP is going to break, you get these pumps. So now we have the same thing again. They're dropping the law. Gary Gensler got let go. I don't know if the lawsuits are now finally going to get dropped, but what does XRP do? It basically doubles in value because of that. And that's the kind of stuff that I tend to look for as a trader, and the best example of how I utilize these kind of things. And tools that you can use, there's many out there that can kind of lead you there, but you need to have a little bit of an intuition. I think I can remove my screen from this point. Made the point. You need to have a little bit of intuition on what it is. So you need to understand the way that each specific coin that you're trying to trade, how their community is functioning. Solana, those are diehard followers. Cardano, same pump. Charles Hodgkinson, Elon Musk, Trump. All of a sudden, Cardano went from where it is to where it is. So those are the kind of things. And what I tend to try and do is try and anticipate that by buying in before that happens, that's, I think, the best way that I can try and explain this, from a trader point of view.
Yeah, that's great explanation. Also, Chris, would you like to add something maybe from your perspective?
Yeah, I think it was a very good explanation. I think the key here is, why is it pumping? If 50 people write it's pumping, then you have to ask yourself why. Is it now a community who typically aligns? Is it actually the token holders who believe that now finally this will be the news event? Or is it actually news that is happening? Or is it institutional that are coming in? Institutional investors behave very differently than retail investors. So where is the money coming from? You can see it now very nicely with the ETFs, actually, what are the institutions are doing versus what is retail doing, because retail typically holds Bitcoin directly. So you have these different options now to analyze and to make yourself a picture. That's when you start trading, everybody will tell you will lose money in the first month. Because when you start with something, you need to learn the environment. You need to learn the context to really understand what is happening right now. And so whenever you start, you should start with a very, very low amount, the lowest amount you can think of, and learn to understand the context. And only if you really understand the context, you will have the abilities to fully utilize what media is doing. And I think that that's a core thing to understand about social behavior in general, because like it's a very advanced game. It's not the easiest game, and it's only depending on the context. And another thing that I would like to add here is also personal emotions. If your Twitter feed is blowing up with people writing that they now bought the token, and you think, oh, should I still get in? The Twitter feed doesn't decide if a coin is pumping or not. And if you follow 500 people and a lot of them are writing it, it doesn't mean that people actually buy the token. It's still social media. So whatever your assumption is, like verify it, find out the context, find out the reason, understand what it means for you. And also another very important thing, make sure that you also add stop loss, because like if you think it will go up but then it goes down, make sure that you do not like then start cringing on the token and hope that it maybe recovers. There's a ton of trader portfolios which are full of weird meme coins which never made it, but they think, yeah, maybe one of them still would make it. And then these ones are often also tokens that will drag down your portfolio unnecessarily.
Yeah.
I always say to that, staring at candles does not make them grow. So.
And I think you guys both bring the kind of valuable point. You need to also look for the social, for the social sentiment and what people are saying, but also validate that or cross-validate that with what you see on chain. Do you actually see the kind of whales buying in? Do you see them holding? Do you see them selling? What is actually happening? So kind of need to kind of connect both of the kind of on-chain and off-chain information together to to make a bit more rational decision.
Awesome. Also, just to track back to what Chris suggested about that when you start, you are always going to lose. So I remember many years ago, somewhere on Bitcoin Talk, somebody asked a question. So, what are the tuition fees for trading? And many people replied that whatever you start with are your tuition fees. So, when you learn trading, awesome. I think it's time to wrap up on this positive note. I'd also like to remind everyone that MZ Finance is currently actively engaging expert traders so that we can cooperate together and we can boost your profile and make it stand out, and you can help us create awesome content for future and aspiring traders. So yeah, reach out to us if you are a professional trader and if you are interested in building a following base. And also check out our socials, our campaigns that we also have on Zilli. They are always with a quirk of some education, and it's always related to DeFi in one way or another. So any final thoughts, any final additional announcements for this event are welcome. So let's start with Alex and Okada.
I mean, it was fantastic. Thank you so much, guys, for having me. For having such a great discussion. So that was awesome. In terms of, I think, final thoughts for that I could share with the community. It's always important to kind of obviously watch your own emotions and watch the emotions of others. So your emotions, that's the thing you can control. You could suppress them sometimes, kind of be a bit more rational. But a lot of the herd behavior you see, you could leverage that. And I think this is really important. If you're in the kind of, especially in the meme coin game, that's one of the most important things you can leverage. So thanks a lot. Yeah.
Thanks. And also Rudo.
Well, From my point of view, I think it's very obvious for anybody watching. You can't use one part of what is out there to make a trading signal. You have to leverage news. You have to leverage technical analysis. You have to leverage mental analysis, your own mental analysis, mindset. All these things come together that builds a trader. And in most cases, the rule is 90% lose 90% of their funds in the first 90 days, as they say. But at the end of the day, it is because experience cannot be cheated on. So we can buy fancy tools and stuff, but when it comes to the physical trading part of it, experience is earned and it takes time. And therefore, whatever strategy you choose to use or resonates with you, be it using a news, be it using on-chain, be it using technical analysis as your primary base to make the decisions from, you need to stick with it long enough so that you can develop a good enough framework. Because the biggest pitfall everybody does is, this week news seems to have worked for most people, so let me start using news, and then it stops working. And next week, technical analysis seems to be the thing, so let me just look at it. And every time you jump ship, you start at the beginning again. So you basically put a reset on the timer that is necessary to build up big enough for you to actually have enough experience to make it successful. And I learned that the hard way by consistently jumping ship after I find that I've studied everything and I'm still not making money. So I must study something else.
Thank you very much, Rudo. And the closing word by Chris.
Great. Also enjoyed it a lot. Was very interesting, and also learned a lot. It's always, I think, everybody can learn constantly, especially in trading. It's so deep in so many directions. Especially like in crypto, the only advice I can give: really think about who you trust with your information. How do you start trading? Where do you get your news from, and what you believe in, because this will be 80-90% decision of if you succeed with it or not. And as always, we hope to help you on your way. We are building the analytics portal that you should then help you find out what are your real returns, what are your real goals in the space. And hope to see more from our panelists on our stages.
Thank you very much. Until next time.
See you guys.